Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for another West Coast ROV video. Today we join the action already in progress here down on the bottom of the ocean, which is only 150 feet here, but it sounds cool to say. We had a pretty interesting job to do today, and as you can see, we've got two lines in the water. There's this yellow rope that you can see to the right of the frame there, and then the thinner yellow thing is the vehicle's tether. And what we were hoping to do today is find this anchor, this big metal post sticking out of the seafloor here, and thread a line through it, through the loop on the top of it, which, as you can see, there isn't one. So we had to adjust our plan here and figure out something else to do. I'd already been down here for a while at this point and kind of surveyed all this stuff that's down on the bottom of the ocean here, and we were sort of trying to figure out what to do. So you can see the perspective changing there just a little bit. What I just did was pitch the vehicle nose down a bit so that I could try and thread this little bolt that's sticking out on the front of the vehicle here under this rope. We were thinking, okay, well, we can't do anything with the rope right now, so how about we just park it, like we'll tuck it under this big rope that's laying on the bottom here and maybe come back to it later. And as you'll see, that didn't quite work out, but we didn't need to anyway. Shortly after that, we said, there's nothing we can do with this rope anyway. Let's just get it out of the way. So I kind of pitched the vehicle down so that the bolt is pointing down, and then threaded it under the rope here. As you can see, that actually worked. But then when I let go, it got loose immediately. The line is floating line, and there's a bit of a current as well, so that whole thing just started floating away, and so it's now drifting up and away from the vehicle. But as you can see, I kind of zip over to it and grab it in midair or mid-water, I guess you could say. This thing is moving, but I opened up the grabber and zip right over to it and got it on the first try, which was kind of cool. And then turned around and got right back to where we were, which you can see a little bit better from this perspective. There's that anchor post, and then there's this rope running off to all this other junk that's down there. And that lump that's to the right of the post, you could see there, is a big crab that we'll see later. You could see it right through the middle of the grabber there at the moment. Yeah, this thing to the right of the post is this big old crab that is hanging out down there. So anyway, since we'll see a different style of anchor later, and since we couldn't do anything here with the rope at this point, I just let it go, as we'll see in just a few seconds. And what we really wanted to try and see here was how this big rope that's laying on the bottom is attached to that post. The point where it's attached is kind of buried, so we figured at that point, like, okay, well, what should we do next? Well, let's try and do a little excavation work, and there's that crab. Let's do a little excavating with the RV. And so I drive over to the post here and grab onto it with the grabber, and then throw the thrusters on full and just try and blow away as much sediment as I can. It's kind of a neat little close-up of all the little sea life on this metal thing. And our friend the crab here, who gets a little covered up with sediment shortly, but he's okay. I see him later, and he's a little dusty, but or she is doing okay. So yeah, grab it onto the post, turn the thrusters up, and do this for quite a while. Probably did this about 6 times, just blasting the thrusters for a while and seeing what we could see, and then waiting a little bit, waiting for the dust to clear, as you can see here. Thanks to the little bit of a current that was going on today, it would have cleared that stuff out pretty quickly. And I think what's coming up here, oh yeah, so in the middle of that, we said, well, how about let's grab onto this big rope and maybe wiggle it around a little bit. We can see what maybe that'll help clear up that area where the rope is connected to that post. So I was amazed that, little vehicle could pick that thing up and move it. It's connected to stuff at the other end, and it's pretty taut. So as it turned out, I couldn't really move it much. Gave it the best shot. I could pick it up a bit and kind of wiggle it back and forth, and spent a while doing that. This turned out to be a pretty long dive, considering that we were doing a lot of high-powered kind of activities here, trying to do things like this. I think this one was about 45 minutes, and then after that, we went back up to the surface, swapped batteries, and re-rigged that yellow rope, and take it down somewhere else. We'll see that in just a minute. So after all of our digging, I think you can see the crab here. Anyway, this was the best view. We actually dug a pretty good sized hole here, and you can see that line coming in from the left, and it's spliced around this kind of plate that's attached to the post there. That's kind of the best look we got at it. And if we go back and do a little more digging, I think we could probably expose this whole thing and see it pretty well. But as it happened, we went back to the surface, re-rigged our little eye bolt. I put some more nuts on it to make it a little heavier because of what happened last time when it just floated away. And as you can see here, this is the usual style of anchor that we see, and that's kind of what we were expecting to find earlier. This style has this loop on it where we can run a line through. So we came back down here and had the rope ready to go, and as we'll see in a second, managed to thread it through here. First try, I missed a little bit and realized I should make it a little easier on myself and get around so that to the side, so I have a better target there. And the way this anchor, the line that's running off to the right, the way it's attached to that plate kind of thing, that's very much like the other one that we saw earlier, but it's just buried. Anyway, so here we go, get it through, and even got the front of the grabber through the eye here. Yeah, you can kind of see it goes, noticeably further. So kind of stable there, and I'm opening the grabber and letting the bolt drop. Then I have to shut the grabber so that I can get back out through the eye, and there it is. And then I almost immediately knock it out by running into the rope. I was so excited to get around to the other side and grab the bolt again, because of course what we got to do next is keep pulling on this and bring it all the way back to the surface, to the boat where we launched from. So just get down here a little bit and get to the eye bolt, and I approach this from up current so that if the strain on the rope was trying to pull the bolt out of the eye, it might just kind of turn sideways and get stuck as it was getting yanked out. That was my hope. Anyhow, there we go. We got it, and I then proceeded to get a little bit tangled up. But then once I got free, here we go. And this took a long time to get back to the boat. It was initially pretty easy to pull. And again, this is about 150 feet of water. We're a considerable ways away from it. So, this is like at least 350, probably closer to 400 feet of rope by the time we're all the way back to the boat. So, this went okay for a while, but then as we got closer to the surface, it was a real struggle and took a while to get back to the boat. And I was just mashing on the button to keep the grabber closed, because I really didn't want to have to retrieve this and do this all again. So this is back near the surface as we're getting it onto the boat, and it started to slip there, and I almost had a heart attack right then. But we got it all the way back to the boat. We then ran a big line down, a bigger rope through that eye, and I'm using this yellow rope, tied off some floats to it, and we were done. So that was the day's adventure, digging holes and rigging lines and finding stuff down on the bottom of the ocean. And there's my pants and there's my shoe. Thanks again.